It's pretty amazing what a single day can tell us about where the world is headed. On January 19th, 2026, we saw two huge, kind of opposing forces on full display. On one side, you had much of the world turning inward, dealing with new tensions. And on the other, you had one nation just laser focused on building its future. So let's dive into this really fascinating contrast.
Okay, so here's how we're going to break this down. First, we'll get into the growing fractures we're seeing on the global stage. Then we'll switch gears and pivot to India, looking at its massive leaps in green energy and digital infrastructure. We'll also hit on some key cultural moments before we wrap it all up and figure out what this day of contrasts really means.
All right, let's kick things off with the big picture. The world in 2026, it's not just competitive anymore. No, it's actually getting way more unstable, way more unpredictable. And a perfect example of this? A huge policy shift coming out of the United States. As part of its America First strategy, the U.S. has started to take a much tougher stance on immigration. And the impact here is, well, it's massive. That number you see, 75, that's how many countries now have their citizens indefinitely blocked from seeking permanent residency in the U.S. And let's be clear, this isn't some temporary thing. This is a major shift with some really far-reaching consequences. This move by the U.S., it's not happening in a vacuum. It actually fits right into a pretty worrying trend that the World Economic Forum has been talking about in their latest Global Risks report. So the big takeaway from their report is this quote right here. We've officially entered an era of competition. And we're not just talking about old school politics. No, we're seeing these intense rivalries flare up in technology, in trade, even over the control of information itself. And honestly, these are the kinds of conflicts that could really shape the next 10 years. Okay, so while all that friction is building up globally, a totally different story is playing out in India. Let's switch gears and see how the country is really zeroing in on these huge projects. And it's a wild contrast to what's happening elsewhere. And a fantastic example of this is the launch of the world's biggest green ammonia project. Now, green ammonia is basically a super clean fuel made with renewable energy. You can use it for anything from fertilizer to fuel for ships. This new plant in Kakinada, it's not just another energy project. It's a statement of intent, right? It's positioning India to be a major player in the global clean energy race. And we're not talking small change here. This ambition has some serious money behind it. That number on your screen? $10 billion. That's the proposed investment for just this one project. The goal is pretty straightforward. Turn India into a top global exporter of green fuel. And this project, it's not a one-off thing. It's all part of a bigger national game plan, which is going to be on full display at the upcoming Bharat Electricity Summit in New Delhi. That's an event that's really all about cementing India's place as a leader on the world's energy stage. This kind of national ambition, it's not just about building brand new things from the ground up. It's also about taking these old legacy institutions and giving them a major upgrade. Let's take a look at how one of India's oldest services is making this incredible leap into the digital age. So get this. On January 15th, India Post, the National Postal Service, made a massive jump into e-commerce. It actually completed its very first delivery using something called the ONDC network, and that signals a huge transformation. Okay, so you're probably asking, what on earth is ONDC? Well, think of it like a universal language for online shopping. Instead of everyone being stuck on one giant platform, ONDC creates this open network where any small seller can connect with any buyer no matter what app they're using. It's this government-backed idea to kind of break up the big digital monopolies and really empower local businesses. And this is just a brilliant example of India's really unique strategy for growth. It's not just about shiny new tech. It's about taking this 150-year-old institution with a massive physical network, the post office, and turning it into a super powerful player in the digital economy. But this national push, it goes way beyond just business and tech. On the very same day, we saw India making its mark in the world of sports and culture too, and really building up a sense of national pride. This was a huge day for Indian sports, a total landmark. For the first time ever, the country hosted a UCI-recognized professional cycling race. That is a massive step that officially puts India on the global cycling map. Okay, so when you've got a historic first like this, you need a big name to get people excited, right? The organizers brought in one of the most famous and beloved people in the entire country. Any guesses who they brought in?
Yup, if you were thinking of the cricket legend MS Dhoni, you nailed it. He's on board as the Goodwill Ambassador, lending his incredible star power to make sure this debut event gets all the attention it deserves, both in India and around the world. And to round things out, the day was also about celebrating identity. January 19th is Kokborok Day, which honors the main tribal language of the state of Tripura. It's a day that celebrates a really important victory back in 1979 and the long fight to get the language officially recognized. It's a powerful reminder of just how diverse the cultural fabric of the nation really is. All right, so we've touched on global politics, green energy, digital logistics, even sports and culture. Let's pull it all together. What does this one day in 2026 actually tell us about the bigger picture? It really all boils down to this incredible contrast. On one side, we have a world that's entering this really tricky era of competition, with all this instability and new barriers going up. But then, on the other side, you've got a nation like India, which is looking inward and just confidently pushing forward with its own plan for building, modernizing, and celebrating who it is. And all this leaves us with a really big question for the future. As we move through this new age of competition, which of these two big stories is going to define the next decade? Will it be the one about global tension and things breaking apart? Or will it be the story of focused national ambition with rising powers charting their own path?